All right, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. I am live in a different location, though. So shout out, first of all, to Flying Turtles for becoming a YouTube member. I really appreciate you being a member. Hopefully you get a lot out of it. We have at least one new members only video every week. And so that's kind of today's opportunity was actually talking about all the Amex offers that I've done for the last couple days. And so I've really had some interesting redemptions, and I'm kind of very excited about that. So if you now that you're a member, feel free to look at that. And then we also have some interesting kind of points opportunities that I've done in some of my members only videos. So I know some creators kind of talk about different things that like kind of industry secrets and things like that they don't want to actually put out in like Discord or YouTube videos and stuff like that. I like to try and help you kind of find some of these really great kind of point redemptions. So that's kind of what what those membership only videos are for. And so that's kind of, one of the things that I like to do. So hopefully, Flying Turtles, you are able to take advantage of some of that. So thanks so much for being here. So once again, we're actually here in a different environment. So I actually like the color. The blue is kind of working for me. So let me know what you guys think. But anyway, so we are talking a little bit about kind of airline airline cards. And I have a number of them. And it got me thinking that I really kind of wanted to talk to you guys in an interesting, kind of informal kind of office hours kind of setting. So that's what we're going to do today. Background Balloon, thanks so much for being here. I think you were really active last week. So we had a lot of really great conversations. We're really excited to continue that. Chad's Money Minutes too, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate you being here. You've been a long time kind of supporter of the channel, and it's been great to have you guys. All right, Calder, how is your Delta Business Gold treating you? Do you have a plan for the Delta Stays credit? Yeah, so that's a really great question, Calder. So first of all, I just recently actually got the sign-up bonus for the Delta Business Gold. So I actually ended up just getting the 60,000 point sign-up bonus through that. And so the spend wasn't hard, right? I think it's $4,000 over the course of 6 months. It was relatively easy to get. And the only problem with that is that like it doesn't really make enough for me to actually justify spending it on a regular basis. But the perks are wonderful, right? So you get the upgraded boardings, you get the free check bags on Delta flights, and then you also get this Delta Stays credit. And the reason why you actually might want to get the Delta Business Gold version is the fact that this one has kind of an enhanced Delta Stays credit. So the Delta Stays credit on the personal gold is 100, but it's 150 on the business version, right? And so the business version has an extra $50, which is really helpful because they both have the same annual fee. It's $150. Now you don't have to pay it for the first year, but you do have to pay it, if you hold the card past that first year. And so that's, what Calder's asking about. So the Delta Stays credit, I really, honestly, I've been kind of watching this really nice property in Charleston, South Carolina. And so Charleston is a city that me and my wife really love to visit. And it's really beautiful. There's all sorts of great things. There's a really great seafood place that we like called Hank's. We just have to make sure that I think they were actually caught up in that whole fake seafood craze kind of scandal thing. So not sure how we feel about that, but we really did love our experience there. And anyway, there's a hotel there that's very close to kind of the main shopping center it's called the Ryder Hotel, Ryder. And I've talked to Anthony about this a little bit. It's really good. And it's actually on Delta Stays. And so I've been waiting to see if there's a time when it makes sense. The Delta Stays rate is kind of a little bit more expensive than kind of like even if you were to get it through the Capital One travel portal as part of their lower tier kind of membership rewards that are like the hotel booking thing if you booked it through the Capital One travel portal. And so that one only gets you $50 in a property credit per stay, which is nice. But so the Delta Stays credit, honestly, like it's not to the point where I've been actually like able to pull the trigger, but a lot of that should be just because it hasn't really made sense for our our travel situation right now. So I don't immediately have a plan. I'm kind of watching that to see if maybe the rate goes to the point where that could actually cover a night. So sometimes during the busy season, which is kind of right now, that room can go up to like $450 or $500 a night, and where like the 150 wouldn't really cover that for me. And so that's kind of my big problem with that. So that's kind of what I'm doing as far as the Delta Stays credit. I think another thing that I might do. So we're kind of going on a trip into North Carolina later this year. And I think on our way up, we might actually use that credit for something in Asheville. So we're really fond of the Asheville Kimpton. So this was actually my first Kimpton that my wife and I stayed at. We went a couple of years ago, and we actually had our dog, a miniature Schnauzer at the time. She was a puppy, and just the way that Kimptons, really go above and beyond to make you feel welcomed, but also to make you feel welcomed with a dog. Like they bring out, the dog bowls and the dog bed and things to the room, and it's free to have a dog. Now you do have to have, follow the certain rules, right? They can't be loud, and they also, I believe they're one of the hotel chains that require the dog to be like put away in like a kennel or something while you're out of the room, just in case maintenance or housekeeping needs to come in. But it's really a great, property. If you are traveling with dogs, they don't charge an extra fee for that. The floors are usually hardwood or something, so you don't really have to deal with that dog smell as much as other hotel properties. And so we might use it there too. So we have a couple different options. But thanks so much, Calder. That was a great question. So Delta Stay has been money for me. A good mix of affordable hotels in the areas I want to stay at. Yeah, it seems to me that it's pretty well done. Now I know that Anthony Venture, he did a video about some really cool redemptions that he did on Delta Stays in Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge, if you want to be kind of more precise about where the tourist parts of that all are. So, but yeah, no, he definitely has had some great success with that. And so yeah, it seems like it's really great. I haven't really mixed too much into that. And we actually have a couple different hotel credits that me and my wife have to use. So we also have the Chase Sapphire Preferred, and so that comes with that $50 annual hotel thing, but also because they sent us that promotional additional $50 in hotel credit, and so we have basically essentially $100 just in hotel credit with the Chase Travel Portal through that card too. So we're really going to have to try to thread the needle to figure out what to do. So I'm not sure if we want to continue with the 2:00 time, because I know that there's a lot going on specifically today because it's the first today kind of the regular college football season. And so, and I know a lot of people are kind of doing that, and me too, because that's actually why I'm in a different location. I just took a break to come do this. So we'll see if, this makes sense. We may have to go a little bit later in the day, but thanks so much for being here. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of what we expect out of airfare cards. So the Delta cards, so we talked a little bit about it with Calder's questions and suggestions, but the Delta credit or the Delta credit cards are famous for a few things. You want to have them because at the very most, the gold card or the platinum or the reserve card, because they come with 15% off on reward points bookings. And so this is an interesting way to kind of make your points travel a lot further, because so essentially when you make a booking, right? So if you have one of these credit cards attached to your Delta account, you can actually save 15% off of what the booking should have been, right? So it is definitely cheaper. And it's definitely cheaper than from like if I just try to book it without actually logging into my Delta account. It's still significantly cheaper with booking with points. Now, the problem with booking with points, though, still is that when you are transitioning or when you're converting your American Express points to Delta, which American Express membership reward points are the only points that actually can transfer directly to Delta, you still have to pay that excise tax fee. And so that can be kind of, it adds on, right? It adds on to your total cost of actually making that booking. And so, the 15% off is nice with those Delta cards, but you do have to be aware of the cost of actually using those Delta points. But what I've actually found is when I am booking Delta, like I'll convert my Amex points to Virgin or Air France, and then I'll actually make that Delta booking through Virgin or Air France, make sure that my Delta number is associated with that booking. and then I'll still be able to get that priority boarding or that free check bag and everything. And so, it might actually make sense where converting those points to Air France or even Virgin Atlantic would actually still be cheaper than that rate would be if I were using Delta points with even with that 15% off discount from having one of those cards. So that is, really, really solid. We do have some more people. So Kirby G is here. Hey. If you haven't subscribed to Kirby's channel already, please do so. He has some really, really solid content, and I love his style. I love the talking through that PowerPoint presentation thing. Honestly, it gives you a lot more kind of structure than some of my videos have. So I really do like Kirby's videos for that. So make sure you're watching him. Melting Cheese, best travel card if you travel twice a year. Yeah, exactly. And I think the gold card specifically because it has that $150 annual fee, which honestly in today's day and age is almost cheap when you consider it to like the gold card or something like that. And so the Delta card, it's relatively inexpensive, but you still get a decent amount of benefits. Plus you get that credit. And so that's kind of going away. Actually, we're seeing a lot of these airline cards kind of getting rid of credits, specifically with the Southwest card. So the Southwest Priority is one that I have, and he is in this card, the Southwest Priority card. It used to be kind of a no-brainer keeper, right? It was $150 annual fee, but you got 7,500 points on each membership anniversary, and then $75 in actual Southwest credit. So if I use the Southwest Priority card, not only did I get 3 points per dollar on that booking for making that booking through that, in addition to what I earned just from my Southwest membership, but I also was able to get $75 off of whatever ticket I paid for. And that applied to anything, right? And then, of course, the priority card also gave you these free priority boarding. So 4 per year, which when Southwest changed to kind of a more dynamic pricing model for that, meant that you could save like $150 per booking. Just because those prices were kind of insane, right? So the Southwest priority card was a solid keeper. However, now they've moved it to I think it's like 200 and I think it's 225 or 250, something like that. My annual fee renewed last month, but it did it at 150. And now they got rid of the credits. You still get the anniversary points, which isn't huge, but now it's, just it's free checked bags, which again, you already got for free with that card, but you kind of have to with this kind of card now. Like it's basically table stakes for having an airline card. You need to have free checked bags on your flights. But you also, you get the upgraded boardings, which is helpful-ish. And then with the priority card, though, you do supposedly get access to booking your seats online, or when you actually book your seats, you can select your seats for free, which is actually something that Southwest is starting to charge for. So if you hold the Southwest priority card, you do kind of still get a points discount because first of all, you can book that basic seat, which is significantly cheaper points wise. But you can still get, because you have the credit card, you can actually still select your seat at booking, so up to a preferred seat. So if you want to be towards the middle of the plane or something like that, you can do that without having to pay. And then so you're actually able to get a lot of decent actual information or kind of benefits from holding the card. You just actually have to reliably fly Southwest, which makes holding the Southwest priority card kind of a harder kind of math problem to make sense of, at least in my opinion. So chat, let's get to the chat a little bit. So Chad's 20 minutes, bro. I just found his channel yesterday and subbed on the spot. Yeah, Kirby is a boss. We'll have to have him on, actually. That sounds like that could be a good conversation sometime. Thank you, Phillip. I talk about the Delta Reserve all the time. Yeah, my wife, she did have the Delta Personal Gold, and then we actually just downgraded that line to the blue, Delta Blue Business, or the Delta Blue card. And they threw us an upgrade offer for the Reserve, and I was like, do I want to take it? Do I want to? I'm not ready for that at this time. But yeah, it definitely looks like a good card, especially if you are someone who's traveling kind of across the continent. So if I'm traveling from, say, Orlando to LAX a couple times, then having that buy one get one free seat per year on a round trip flight up to first class could really be quite substantial. Mike Newland, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for being here, Mike. I really appreciate you. You're always a great guy who comments on a lot of great videos and actually sends me some interesting thought-provoking content and stuff like through the Discord. So I really appreciate Mike. He's awesome. And then background balloon. Meanwhile, United is trolling us with more random credits. Yeah. So I think the biggest rumor that we had this year, well, there's a lot of big rumors that we've had this year, but moving there was a Ritz-Carlton card, right? So the Ritz-Carlton card was supposed to get that premier hotel kind of ability, right? They were supposed to get a credit for that card, but it's weird. Like, why do you need hotel credits on an airline card? But I guess at the same time, right, Delta Stays is there. So it kind of makes sense, but it also kind of doesn't. Like, I know that everybody wants to be kind of the end all be all, right? Like even Airbnb is getting in on this, right? So they just had a huge ad that aired during the Auburn game last night, where they were advertising not only are you able to book, actual like places to stay, but you're also able to book, services and outings and things like that. And so I feel like more and more of these companies want to be this one-stop shop. And so United, yeah, it feels like it's extra, and it is extra. I think they have the Lyft credits or DoorDash or something stupid. It's just there's a lot going on. Kirby, Southwest cards are kind of duty now. My mom got one a couple months ago with a targeted checkout offer, but she never flies Southwest. Yeah, it's definitely so, and that's how they changed, right? So before, I could get value from the Southwest Party card without spending on it and without flying Southwest, because if I chose not to fly Southwest that year, I could still bank that $75 credit and those anniversary points. So it still made sense because I was banking that value, at least in a way that kind of made it feel like I was still getting something for the money I was putting in. So that was kind of a big deal for me. But yeah, it's completely changed now. You have to fly it, and you have to fly it enough for it to make a meaningful difference. I agree. Kirby, a big feature of my Delta card that I love is that I fly a lot of 2 to 3 configurations, and I can always select a seat in the row with 2 seats at the front of main cabin. That is really nice. Yeah. That is one thing I love. So my wife and I, we've flown on an A220 twice now. So we did it on Air France. We did Air France from Charles de Gaulle to Manchester, England, and we were actually in economy. And so, but we were in that row that had 2 seats, and so like we didn't have anybody beside us. Now, we were kind of snug in those little seats, but it definitely didn't feel nearly as constricting as, say, like if you're flying Delta and you're flying with someone, you have either one of you guys is in the middle or one of you guys is in the window seat and the aisle seat, and then just some random stranger is going to be in the middle, because if you're flying into or out of Atlanta, that seat's going to be filled, right? And so, I feel like being able to have that kind of row of 2 people, like it makes more sense, because if you're a family of 3, you can choose that row. But if you're a family of 2, you choose that row. And that's really, really nice. And then we actually flew another A220 on a breeze, which we actually took from Huntsville down to Orlando. And so that was really a solid experience. The whole thing was amazing. But yeah, that's a great point. Being able to, select your seat in your certain row is big. And honestly, even if you are in, row 37A, being able to be 5th boarding row means that like you can actually bring bags with you on the plane, and you still get to keep them next to you. So you don't have to worry about, oh, like I'm sitting here, but my bags are 7 aisles behind me or something like that. Like that whole thing just makes deplaning so much more stressful than it needs to be. So yeah, that's a great point, Kirby. Kirby, I just moved to SoCal and the credits actually became harder to use. Oh, interesting. That is it just because there wasn't that much kind of award space, or like what was the differentiator there? Is it because of how many connectors it was or something like that? Maybe that would actually really make it very depressing, because I wouldn't want to use that credit. Say if I wanted for a round trip from here to, say, New York, I definitely would want to feel like I got my money's worth out of that credit. So I'd want it to be across the continent like that. So that's really concerning. Maybe downgraded. Calder, I think Delta is more of a status play and less of a points play. Yeah, especially for premium first flights. Running a truckload of spin through Delta Platinum Reserve is a good play despite multiple. Yeah, that is a great point. I think so. One of my family members, so on my wife's side, he has a Delta reserve, and he only flies Delta, and he does get a lot of interesting status perks and things like that. And so yeah, that's definitely a solid option. So yeah, that's a good point. And I think, and that's one of the things too. I know I love to harp on Southwest cards, but like, come on, man, they suck. But you know, there isn't really much benefit from having A plus or A, A list preferred or A list from having those cards, right? That's the way things are. So that's yeah, but Delta, that could definitely be the case. Stefan and Daniel, I think airline cards are so tough to have unless you're looking for status or free luggage. I don't consider the point multipliers because the points you get naturally for spending on that airline. You're right. Yeah. So, because yeah, like you said, so the majority of the points you get are from actually just paying for that airline. And that changes based on how much status you have with that airline, which is again part of the play, right? So I feel like most of my keeper airline cards. So I have a couple airline cards. I have the Virgin Red card, which is kind of an airline card, kind of not, because it doesn't give you free checked bags, but it does give you some Virgin kind of red benefits, which is nice. And then I have the Citi American Advantage Platinum Select card, and that gets you kind of the standard things, right? So it gets you the early boarding, it gets you the free check bags. Now, I've actually haven't flown economy in American in a while, just because we actually just have been booking first class tickets through Alaska. I'm sorry, Atmos. For that. Is it Atmos or Atmos? I feel like it might be Atmos, but it's weird. But yeah, no, yeah. The multipliers, they just suck, which is funny because I remember when I heard some executive, I think it was Southwest, was talking about the new Southwest cards. They were talking about how they wanted the multipliers to make sense. And in a certain way, I get it, right? So the priority card moved to 2x on I think it's dining and gas stations, which, sure, like, that's nice, but, dining in gas stations, or at least dining, you get 3x on pretty much any other Chase card, and as long as you have a Sapphire card, you can actually just end up transferring that to Southwest. So, yeah, it's hard to make a justification to actually spend on these cards, and it's just so much less value. Bo Pete or Boppet, do you think credit card with cashback is better or points? All right, so, here's the thing. I have so many cards, right? So let me pull out my show and tell here, right? So I got the notebook here. I have these cards, and I have a lot of really solid cashback cards, and have a lot of really solid points cards. With that said, I spend a vast majority more points on actually using, my points card. I spend my cards that earn points get so much more spend just because I've had some really solid redemptions in my life so far. So I kind of lucked out on my first shot, right? So my first international trip was last December when I took my wife and I to London and then to Paris. And our flight out was great. We did premium economy, that was solid. And then my flight back was Air France business class, and that was 50,000 points per person, plus I think it was like $250 in taxes, give or take. And that was just, I think if you looked at now, of course, looking at the cash rate for one way is a lot different than looking at the cash rate for round trip. But if you look at the cash rate for one way, that's essentially 8 to 9 cents per point for that. And so that kind of is that high that I've kind of been chasing ever since, because having those points to, like, if you use American Express Gold card, that's 4x. But if you're getting 8 cents per point, that's a lot more than 4% cash back, right? And so having that is good, but you gotta, if you're going to do the points thing, you have to be aware of kind of these sweet spots, right? So, if I'm just trying to do points and all I want to do is convert my American Express points to Delta, and I just want to, I know that I have to leave Orlando at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, January 2nd, or whatever, day it is. If I'm flying like that, I'm probably not getting anywhere close to 8 cents per point, right? So it might make more sense to do cash back if I don't have that kind of flexibility, or if I'm not interested in finding those sweet spots. But as far as me, definitely points are going to be better for me than cash back. But I also I have the Robinhood card. I love to carry around the Robinhood card, right? Because it's 3% cash back on everything. I love my Fidelity Rewards Visa. My Fidelity Rewards Visa gets 2% cash back on everything, has no foreign transaction fees. It gets me TSA pre-check. It's a solid card. Plus, it has Visa signature protection, so it has a little bit of travel protections. I wouldn't actually put any solid like significant travel on it because, well, I have better travel protections through the Ritz-Carlton card or the Platinum card, but it's a solid card. I don't use them that much. But anyway, I got some catching up to do. I've been pontificating. Kirby G, I used to get upgraded every flight. Now I always have to fly through Atlanta or MSP, and Resy restaurants are almost exclusively $100 a plate versus Midwest Bar and Grills. I am silver medallion every year. Okay, that is good to know. So upgraded every flight. That is nice because the price differential between Comfort Plus and First is significant, right? But honestly, someone who looks like me, I'm kind of larger, I would rather pay that if I can, points wise, because having a wider seat is a lot more important to me than having more legroom. And so, yeah, no, being able to say that you were upgraded is super nice. So that's nice. I will give you that Resy restaurants can be kind of expensive. So a buddy of mine, we went to Louisville for kind of a guy's trip in June. And we went to pretty much all Resy restaurants except for one that was on Open Table that we saw. And without a doubt, probably between the two of us, it was probably about, I want to say like maybe 50, 60 a person. But then again, we did drinks, appetizers, desserts. And so that's probably standard fare for going all out. So it was like, kind of a guy's birthday kind of get together trip. So, we were definitely doing that. But yeah, no, Resy restaurants are definitely kind of expensive, especially if you're just looking for like a place to have a sandwich or something, then Resy's definitely not going to be your game. Kirby, Resy credit used to give me a free dinner once a month. Now we'll never use it, bar a very special occasion. Yeah, so that is one of the things I hate about those cards. And one of the reasons why I definitely haven't gotten it yet is because those monthly Resy credits just suck, right? $20 a month. I think it's $10 a month on the Platinum card, $20 a month on Reserve. It's like, and I have a lot of really good Resy restaurants near me. I just don't use them on a month-to-month basis, so I definitely wouldn't expect to get full value, maybe half if I'm lucky. And I don't know, I hate monthly credits, especially when it comes to something like that. But yeah, no, I agree with you, Kirby. That would be something that I wouldn't really put a whole lot of things behind. All right, Calder, at Kirby still you can clean up with free preferred seat selection from silver status. That is nice. Yeah, silver status is nice. I haven't really, so I've heard that you can kind of, if you have multiple of these Delta cards, you can kind of get status by just spending a little bit on it, which is kind of a nice little play. I haven't done it personally myself, but I do have a couple of friends that are really heavy Delta users, so that actually might be good to know. Kirby, Calder, correct. I will have status through 2026, but I don't know if I will get it for 2027. We shall see. That is so far away. Yeah. 2027 is a long time away. My wife and I, we're planning a international trip with some friends of ours for Edinburgh. I won't shut up about it, I know. But it's going to be in November of 2026, and it feels like it's so far away, but it's kind of not, because we're trying to make sure that we get our first class or business seats kind of booked a year in advance, because essentially our first preferred option would be BA first class booked through Cathay Pacific, and that award availability essentially just basically a year out, and so that's kind of what we're looking for. But the marching of time, it just keeps going. Sean, thoughts on adding Chase Aeroplan card to the Chase trifecta? Yeah, the Chase Aeroplan card is definitely on my short list. So let's take a look at let's take a look at the Aeroplan card. So we always talk about it. It's definitely on my list. So I am wildly over 524. I recently just did a video where I have a significant more amount of cards open, more than 5 so far this year. But Air Canada Aeroplan is interesting to me because, first of all, you can book United flights domestically pretty easily, but also it's not difficult to find relatively cheap redemptions for business class from here to Europe on Air Canada metal. And so there's a lot of different options for these points. So that does make sense to me. Now you do get, so you get 3 points per dollar at grocery stores and on dining. So it's an airfare card that gets 3% back on, or 3 points per dollar back on dining and restaurants. I do that all the time, dining and groceries. And so that's kind of an interesting. But the $75,000 point bonus is solid. It's after spending $4,000 in the first 3 months. Yeah, like because it's one-to-one transfer from Chase to Air Canada, and so that's kind of really, essentially, if you are going to be transferring to Air Canada, that's 75,000 UR points, right? And so that's really solid. Basically the status is nice. Yeah, there's and the pay yourself back. This is the thing that I always hear Dugras talking about a lot, is being able to pay yourself back with these points, because it's an enhanced kind of redemption value, and that he uses that a lot to kind of make up for other areas that he can't use points for. And so yeah, it's just a solid card. It's on my short list. I think before my wife goes over 524, I would like her to either get the Chase Aeroplan card or the United Explorer card, or maybe an IHG Premier card, something like that. I don't know. Then there's World of Hyatt. Okay, maybe I just like all the cards. But yeah, no, definitely Aeroplan's a good one. Kirby, cent per point is so hard to truly calculate. Right. I never round trip from the same city, so I always take the one-way value, but others tell me I'm wrong. Oh well. Right. Yeah, exactly. So no matter which one you pick, you're always going to be wrong. But the number of 8 cents a point, right? Would I ever paid $8,000 for that flight or whatever it was? No, right? But this is, it's a sexy number to be able to tell people I got 8 cents per point. So that's one of the reasons for using it, but it's also one of the reasons why people that use it get kind of criticized a little bit, because you are fudging the numbers a little bit. But it's worth it to me. I've been chasing that high ever since. Bob Pitt, here in Canada, we only have cashback to max 2%. Never seen 4% unless it's a promo. Okay. Oh, wow. So yeah, I have seen that in other countries. America kind of has this kind of flush financial system where there's a lot of different competition, and so competition can be better and for the consumer, and in this case definitely appears to be. And so having that kind of reaction is definitely really good. Bobbit, sorry about the whole Canada thing. Yeah, non-American cards are rough. And I don't know how they, sorry about that bump. So I don't know how they actually calculate APR, because when I was in London last time, I was looking at specifically like American Express, and they were like, the APR was like 200% or something like that. I was like, surely there's a difference in how this is calculated. So maybe, it was very interesting. But yeah, it's all good. Sorry about the Canada thing. Yeah. Do you guys know a little bit about Canadian cards? I have an Aeroplan Infinite Privilege, and I don't see the points too much going up. When I get cash back at 2%, I can get a lot of money. Right. Yeah. So yeah, so it just depends on kind of what you're spending on and whether or not it makes sense for that card. So when I first got my Southwest Priority card, or my Southwest Plus card, this was a while ago, and I decided that it was going to be my everyday spender because it was actually my first points card. So I thought I was doing a really great thing. And then what I noticed was that I was only getting like 1,000 to 1,500 points every month, because most of my spend was only getting 1 point per dollar, and so that was definitely not it. So I was thinking about this actually earlier on a walk with my dog earlier today. Like, if I value, let's say I value my membership rewards points at 2 cents per point. Let's say that's the minimum kind of easy redemption I can get. So if that's converting to Delta to get 1.5, and then maybe converting to Virgin to get 3 or 4 cents per point on a premium economy seat, right? So the average out would be 2 cents per point. Would I then consider having a 1% or 1 point per dollar card as having 2% cash back? And the answer is no, at least for me, because there's the possibility to actually get 2 points per dollar, which would be 4% cash back if I valued it at 2%. So I was thinking about that the other way. But yeah, no. So it depends on which is best for you. So if 2% cash back earns more for you, Bop It, I would say, yeah, that might be the best situation for where you're going through, because those Canadian cards are interesting. It's easier for you guys to get Visa Infinite cards, which is interesting, because that's really intriguing for me. Philmo, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you. So the only Resy restaurant near me is a brewery. So there you go. You could definitely get a beer once a month, right? Maybe two if you're lucky. So yeah, that's a great option. We have a lot of restaurants near the parks. In fact, actually, all of the restaurants in the like the Helios, hotel near Epic Universe. All those are Resy restaurants, so I definitely want to use that the next time I get a Resy credit. Calder says, luckily there's a taco place near me that's on Resy, easy enough to use a credit. Yeah, that is really kind of what it takes, right? There's a couple of really great sushi places near where I work. And then there's one place that we actually used to go for a couple of business lunches that was really nice too. But most of the time I've just used my Resy credits for nights out with my wife, but that's also because I have the gold card. And so I only have to use it to, go to a Resy restaurant twice in a year in order to get that value. All right, let's see. Bop it. Is there a way to get city cards when we aren't American? I I don't know, actually. I don't know because I feel like for most of these cards, you'd actually have to have a social security number. Um, so I'm not sure. I don't have any direct experience about that. But if someone does in the comments, please let me know. We'd love to hear that. Kirby, my companion fare and Delta stays gave me basically the entire annual fee and value for my U.S. Virgin Islands trip. So hard to complain about not getting more value. Yeah, definitely. But if I am paying 650, I want more in benefits. Absolutely, we all want more, especially for 650, because I feel like Kirby. Do you have any other premium travel cards, or is kind of the reserve kind of your go-to? Because I feel like for 650, if that is kind of the big dog in my wallet, yeah, I want to get that value. And so, yeah, definitely, I'd agree with that, Kirby, 100%. Calder at Boppet. I lived in Canada for my PhD. Amex and some CIBC are the best. Not sure about getting US cards, but people say it's possible. Yeah, I've seen a couple people on Reddit say it's possible, but I don't have any direct experience with kind of making that work. Sean says, Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate you. Kirby, I used 75,000 Aeroplan points to go from LAX to NRT business class for next July. That is amazing. Yeah, it's actually relatively easy to use those Aeroplan points. And one of the things that I love about Aeroplan is it's very easy to search if you use Points Yeah. So Points Yeah, I just recently got a annual membership for them just because I think it was like something stupid, like 25 AA points per dollar on through the AA shopping portal. And so I picked that up, and it's really great for searching Air France, Aeroplan, as well as Alaska, aka Atmos, and then American Airlines is in there as well. If you're looking for other kind of options, it's a little bit harder to find sweet spots. Yuri here, Yuri G. Thanks so much for being here. Hi to you as well. I'm actually surprised that we have as many people as we do, just because this is kind of a high sports day. So I am glad to see that there's so many people here. Then another 75,000 Aeroplan to go from Taiwan to LAX. Wow, that is amazing. Okay, my wife and I have considered going a little bit to Asia, but it's definitely like we're kind of novices when it comes to actually international travel. So we've only got 2 trips together under our belt, and we're definitely planning another European trip. One thing that I have been, I'll say this, I've been watching a lot of R Squared travels videos, and it really like I've really kind of been wanting to try like taking Royal Air Maroc to Casablanca, then maybe going down to Kenya or something like that, and doing a safari. Like that seems really cool use of points, but I don't know if my wife would come visit me. So if someone wants to go to Africa with me, we could get it set up. Yuri G, I recently added Aeroplan and it's great. Yeah, I've only heard good things about that card. I don't have it now because I'm way over Chase 524 and my wife has other priorities at the moment. They now have Visa Infinite Privilege cards in Canada. Yeah, that's right. I at first I got it. I think I saw something on Reddit about a Visa Infinite Aeroplan card. And I was like, whoa, that would be really exciting. And it turns out it was definitely not for me. But yeah, no, Yuri, that's a solid option. But Visa Infinite Privilege for me only get 1 points per dollar, so not the best since most of my spending isn't on food and restaurants. So yeah, no, I definitely get that. It's frustrating. So I recently finished a sign up bonus on my platinum card. So I got an upgrade offer from my gold card to my platinum card, and I got the sign. It was 125,000 point sign up bonus, which was great. But when I was earning it, it was so frustrating because I was putting all my spend on that card, and but I would only get like 2,500 points in a month, and it was just like I should be doing so much better if I was just using anything else other than the stupid platinum card, which is kind of incredible. Nurakin71, hello there. Any good recommendations to eat in MCO? We'll have a long layover there next week. Awesome, great. Nurakin, I think I saw you on somebody's live last week where you were talking about a really great Virgin. I think it was a Virgin trip from MCO to Manchester, if I remember correctly. Like that actually line is really solid. But yeah, great to see you here. As far as goodie recommendation to eat in Orlando, one thing that's really crazy is how famous that Chili's gets before security. Just because you actually have to go up like a little escalator, and like a Chili's to go or Chili's 2 or whatever they call it, it's airline food. But they have a Bahama Breeze there that's really good, and depending on which, I think the Southwest terminal has a really interesting option that gives you, I think it's like a kind of like a beer garden kind of place. So it's kind of fresh, kind of American food. That one's, I forgot what the name of it is, but it's kind of open air and it's really interesting. But the Bahama Breeze is fine. Usually, whenever I'm flying out of MCO, I'm flying in the morning, and so like we'll just hit up the Delta Sky Club or the club for breakfast. Which, yeah, it kind of sucks, but it's free and it's a nice little kind of quiet area out of the way. Man, I need to do some more catching up. Kirby Reserve is the only one I have at the moment. I really want the Venture X, but I already have the Venture and Saver and High Velocity. I want Priority Pass because I only have Sky Club access. Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. The Priority Pass, it's interesting because when you have it, you'd really prefer not to use it. But when you don't have it, it's like, at least I would have this, right? So like the Priority Pass that I have, the last time I used it was when I was traveling to Louisville and I flew out of Orlando. We went to the club and I brought my friend in, and like it was great, it was fine, and I definitely would prefer it to just sitting at the gate or trying to get like a sandwich and orange juice at a Pret or something, right? Yeah, the Priority Pass is really nice. The Venture X is solid. The Priority Pass that I get the most use out of is from my Ritz-Carlton card. I have it with the Platinum card, but I never really sign into it because that doesn't give you access to like the express spas or the minute suites or anything like that. So yeah, so Priority Pass is fine, especially like having options is good, right? So having actual options to Priority Pass plus Sky Club plus Centurion Lounge plus Sapphire Lounge really means that like no matter what airport you're flying out of, if there's a lounge, you probably have access to it. And so having that kind of option is nice. That's true, Kirby. Background balloon, LOL. The only resi place near me is a hookah lounge. All right, I actually had no idea those were still a thing. Like I remember them being very huge when I was in college, which was a little bit over 10 years ago now, and they were so big, and I was surprised that they're still a thing, but apparently they are, and apparently they're on resi. Do they have like a menu or something? I'm very curious. Yuri G, I did a redemption for LH first class on TFS to I think that's Frankfurt to JFK. Okay, that's really cool. Anytime you get a big redemption like that, that is amazing. 100K points Aeroplan. Okay. Yeah, and one of the things that's great about Aeroplan is you get that sign up bonus, 75,000 points. You could still mix it with Capital One miles. With I think Citi is a transfer partner of Aeroplan, if I'm not mistaken. But Capital One, Chase, American Express, it's really great way to combine, like especially if you're in different point ecosystems. I love that's one of the things I love about Air France. It's one of the things I love about Virgin is like you can definitely kind of increase that value and kind of spend on whichever cards make the most sense to you. Right. And so that's why there's a lot of people that have like a Venture or a Venture X and also put most of their dining spend on a gold card because, they're maxing out their categories, but they can still kind of put those points together kind of on the back end, which is super nice. What airline has a hub at Orlando? So Link 875, I'm so glad you asked that question. So we are kind of lucky in Orlando in that most airlines come here with a fair number of direct flights. And so there's not really any airline that has a hub in Orlando, but you can get very easy flights via United. You get very easy flights via Delta, American. Now you will have to fly to their hubs, which is kind of frustrating. Like if I wanted to fly to Denver on, say, American Airlines, right? I would probably be having to, there is, I think, one direct flight every other day or something, but you would most likely have to fly through Charlotte or Fort Worth or something like that. Same thing with Delta. If I wanted to go to Denver, I would have to fly out of Atlanta and then somewhere else, And so, but what's great is because so many airlines service Orlando, there's a lot of points opportunities, right? So I can take a look at, okay, if there's a flight, would it make more sense for me to fly United? Right. So if I wanted to fly direct from here to Dulles, which is Northern Virginia, I can fly United because they do 2 flights a day. If I wanted to fly Orlando to Reagan, which is closer to the city, then I can do Delta, I can do Southwest because those are direct. And so, having that option is really solid. Like I don't have to worry about what, and that's probably one of the reasons why I have so many airline cards is because, I don't really want to be able to pick and choose. I just want to do whichever one has the best point redemptions. And sometimes it actually is Delta, right? So I actually got a first class seat from, so round trip from me and my wife, first class from, now granted it's only from Florida, Orlando to Atlanta, but I think it was like 55,000, 60,000 points. And so I think I did the math. It was like close to 3 cents per point. And so I was kind of excited about that. But yeah, so that's a great question. Yuri G, we don't have any Visa Infinite Privilege cards here in the United States. Yeah. Yeah, that would be nice. I'd like to have something like that. Calder, Amex Cobalt is the best card in Canada. I've heard a lot of people talk about that, actually. 5X back for groceries and dining with some cap and 150-ish annual fee. Yeah, that sounds amazing. I've actually seen a couple of YouTube videos about people talking about that. It looks like a really solid option. Calder, yes, but it only applies for spend in Canada. Oh, interesting. Okay. So you'd actually have to spend it in Canada. All right. At Link, Silver, JetBlue, Spirit, Delta, no true hubs, but these airlines have a decent amount. Right. I think JetBlue is probably the most exciting because they're actually one of the ones that are reliably in the new C terminal, and that has a Plaza Premium Lounge, was in Priority Pass. And and so they actually do, like, if you're flying to Boston or if you're flying to New York or to Washington, JetBlue is probably going to have a direct flight for you out of Orlando, which is really nice. But yeah, Nurican, yes, MCO to Edinburgh on VA, scored 3 business class seats. That's amazing. I love that. And I love Virgin Atlantic's soft product. Like their food is so good, specifically in upper class, right? And it was a great experience. I loved it. Yuri, I'm as Canadian, can get Cobalt, but I can't earn any of the 5X multipliers. Okay. Well, that's good to know. So specifically location specific. That is good to know. Nurican, Bear Garden sold. Thanks. Yeah. Calder, surprisingly, there's only like 1 to 2 no foreign transaction fees cards in Canada. There are a dime a dozen in the United States. Yeah, I feel like that's driven primarily by Capital One because they kind of changed the game in that, like, you can, for no annual fee card, you can get no foreign transaction fees, but easy access to really good cashback cards. And I feel like that kind of pushed the market in that way, right? So we're seeing like the Fidelity card, for example, did not formerly have foreign transaction fees, but that recently changed. And I think it's because in order to compete with cards like Capital One, they kind of have to do that in a more kind of meaningful way. So yeah, that's a great point. Yuri, I was transitioning via Miami a lot recently. I was going to Corona Beach House a lot using City Prestige and US Bank AR Priority Pass, and they can accept any number of Priority Pass. I was using up to 3 Priority Passes. Wow. Okay. That is really, really good to know. Bop it. Is it good to farm sign-up bonuses? Yes. Okay. So I have earned, as of today, I've officially earned north of 1 million points on sign-up bonuses so far this calendar year. And so, I got the business platinum card, the business gold card, and then a couple airline cards and things like that. And so, yes, it will come a time where it will catch up to you. I was recently denied for the City Prestige, the City Premier, not the City Prestige, sorry, the City Elite, the City Premier, and then the Fairwinds Visa card, all in the last month. And so all the banks are pretty much telling me that 18 cards is probably enough for me for this year. So just don't go as overboard. Now, I kind of gave myself a little bit more license to do so because I kind of do this on YouTube, and I just want to make sure that I have kind of the experience to be able to talk about these cards. And so that's kind of my impetus for doing it, but a million points is a million points, right? And so that's really nice. Yuri says no, Citi is not a transfer partner. Amex, Chase, Capital One, built in Mesa. That's it, Mesa. I forgot about that. Yeah, Mesa points. So they recently did a change where they added Cathay and they added Aeroplan, and I feel like in my mind that made those Mesa miles or the Mesa points so much more interesting and so much more easy to get benefits from. And the reason why is just like I can across a couple different kind of transfer partners combine my Amex points. And so being able to earn 3x, 3 points per dollar on my car insurance bill, for example, or 1 point per dollar on my mortgage just kind of allows me to kind of use more of my Amex points towards something else or something like that. And so that's really kind of a big deal for me. Background balloon. Yeah, the hookah lounge on Resy has a dining area too. Okay, well, I guess that makes sense, right? That for it to be on the dining platform. Kirby, I spent 80,000 Sky Miles to go from SNA to Atlanta to Cancun and back. The two shorter legs in Comfort Plus, only a 1.2 cent per point, but I didn't have to pay cash. So big win for me. Absolutely. So that's kind of the other end of that cent per point thing, right? So that basically you can brag, oh, I got 8 cents per point, like I am kind of the biggest baller that ever balled as far as the credit card points and mile space goes. Or you can just say, I was able to do this and I didn't have to use my cash, right? And I think that's one of those two things is most people's goals, and and that's definitely no shame in being able to use your points to do what you want, right? Like that's the whole reason we're here. All right, and do you cancel them after a couple of times? Yeah, so most of the time, and American Express appears to be the only one that actually is actively kind of going against this, right? Is the general rule of thumb is you hold your card open for at least a calendar year, and then after that point you can close that without any negative repercussions, at least from the bank side, right? The bank can't financially harm you or take back your points or something like that after you've held it for a year. Now, maybe you'd want to keep some of those open, maybe you want to downgrade them depending on how you're managing your average age of credit on your credit report. Some people care about it, some people don't. My average age of credit, I actually looked, is about 2 years and 8 months. And again, I've opened up 18, actually now 19 cards with the one pay card this year. And so, I think Uncle Luke had a video, I think it was on his live the other night, where he said, there's nothing worse than bad as far as this goes, right? So, yeah, so when I opened up my first 5 cards this year, I went into that bad category, right? Like Credit Karma has this big orange blinking light that says you suck for doing this, right? Interestingly enough, Credit Karma believes I can fix it by opening up a Marriott bank card, but anyway, but yeah, no, it's not going to hurt your credit past a certain point, and so that's my main point. They added SAS. Yeah, I'm very excited about SAS. So I was watching a video from Nonstop Dan when he talked about SAS business class, and it does seem like it's more kind of like the Aer Lingus style business class of like it's not as much space as like Air France, but it does have that space, and it's easy to get that space too, which is nice because they still have that award chart, and so that can be really helpful for helping to kind of make sure that you're getting that value. And so that's really nice. I love that SAS is now a partner. Yuri, Air India is also an interesting transfer partner. Yes, Yuri, you got me onto Air India for United flight. So I was looking at a flight from MCO to Dulles, so Northern Virginia. And it was for economy 5,000 points, and for first class, if I could find the availability, 15,000 points. And so for United, yeah, I'm going to do that, right? If I need to go to Dulles, and I have family that lives there, so yeah, we'll have to go to Dulles. That's a great way to do it on United. Yeah. Kirby flying from Southern California to Cancun and back for $136 in taxes is a big flex. Absolutely. That's a big baller move right there, Kirby. Good job. But I found a fly from Canada to Spain for business class at 70,000 points. Should I do that? The travel would be 220,000 points. Yeah, if you can, honestly, yeah. Some of those Spain flights, right, are really solid. So I saw a American. So it was a Alaska booking back when Alaska, not Atmos, and it was a first class ticket from Chicago to Heathrow, but through I think it was Barcelona. And so it was on American Airlines business class metal across the ocean, and then it was British Airways in their business class from Barcelona to Heathrow. It was only 45,000 points. And so yeah, so for some reason Spain can be kind of an interesting sweet spot for a lot of these kind of these redemptions. So I mean, honestly, like if that's something that you want to do and it's something you have the points for, I would say yeah, absolutely do it, Bop It. You do it. I think Iberia would be cheaper. Yeah, Iberia can be good, and Iberia is Avios, and so that's relatively easy to transfer into because just about everybody has an Avios transfer partner. It doesn't have to be Iberia. Just booked a quick trip to Epcot for the Food and Wine Festival. So much for wearing my tangerine Speedo in Puerto Rico. Yeah. Food and Wine Festival is so great. Phil, I think I've told you this. The last time I went to Food and Wine Festival, it was actually paid for by Hulu. So my wife works in advertising and she had a client, I can't tell you. So the Hulu rep was kind of, wooing the whole thing, and I was able to be a +1 in this whole thing. And so the Hulu rep literally just took us around the entire park and just, we ordered what we wanted. They swiped their company Amex and, we got it. So we went nuts and a little tipsy. It was an incredible opportunity. But yeah, Food and Wine Festival is amazing. I feel like Canada's always a solid win. They usually have some like a filet thing. Mexico's pretty good. They actually their bao bun. They had bao bun tacos one time, and that was really really intriguing. But yeah, no, this Food and Wine Festival is incredible. Bob hit 70,000 for one way is great value. I personally booked business class separately. Not sure what you mean by 220 if that is for two people. Yeah, so 70,000 for a business class one way over or across the ocean is solid. Like if you're just doing like Air France business class on a Tuesday, like a random day, and you can pay as much as 220,000 points for that same seat, or you can try to look for that saver fare. So it sounds like the 70,000 point could be one of those saver fares. So so Iberia is a Spanish airline that has Avios Bop It. But yeah, they can be kind of a sweet spot. In fact, I think Luke actually went to Uncle Luke actually went to not Spain, Portugal on Iberia and did had a pretty good redemption. So basically 70,000 business class after comeback is 40,000 and we are two. Okay. I mean, if that's kind of what you want to do, then yeah, that is amazing. Can we use Aeroplan points in Iberia? No. So Iberia, I think can you book? I don't know if you can book Iberia using Aeroplan points. But so Iberia is Avios. And so if you have, say, something that converts to an Avios program, that might be a better option. But let's see what Herbie says. Barpet, I would do that in a heartbeat. Might be able to get better value in other programs, but if you only have Aeroplan points, yeah, exactly, right. So and that's kind of the true regardless, right? So I was looking at United flights on Aeroplan. So Air Canada Aeroplan, I think it was like 15,000 points to fly from here to Denver on a direct flight. And if I wanted to book that through United, it could be as low as 5,000 United points. But if I only have Air Canada flights, or if I only have Capital One miles, and I can't book United directly, then that's the best option you got, right? Bop It, no, you can't. You need to use Avios. Okay, I wasn't sure if you could book them, but thanks so much for confirming that, Yuri. Link 75, is it even worth getting the Southwest card? Heard everyone not liking them anymore. Yeah, Link 75. So the only reason I still have my Southwest card is because they charged me the annual fee last week or 2 weeks ago of $150. It wasn't the $225 or whatever it is now. And I called them. I was like, I'm thinking about canceling this card. And they actually gave me $150 credit on my account. So the only reason it's open is because it's free for this year. We'll see what happens next year. But if you're someone who's going to fly Southwest, and you're probably only going to fly Southwest, and you have a lot of Southwest points, having a Southwest card is kind of necessary, because if you want those free checked bags, if you want priority boarding, and if you want to be able to make those Southwest points go further, then that could be kind of what you need to do. Because with the priority card, you can actually book the most basic point redemption, and it's still refundable, right? Because you get your points back. but you get to you still get free check bags with the card. You still get to select your seat in advance with the card. So the card does make sure that your Southwest experience is better now. It's just it's a lot harder to get value from if you're just a casual Southwest user. Thank you so much for that question, Link 875. I love talking about Southwest. If you don't know, Bop it. I was looking at business class. It's 70,000 or economy is 40,000. Yeah, honestly, Bop it. If I were looking at a 30,000 point differential, I would do business class if I had the points. Just because business class is something that I have never done in my life, and I would never have been able to do it if it weren't for having points and miles. But it is such an incredible experience, especially if you're flying out of a European airport. So I have TSA PreCheck and Clear. Well, I have global entry and I have Clear, and you get pampered when you're in an American airport. But if you are flying out of Charles de Gaulle, right? So I was flying out of Charles de Gaulle, and I've flown out of it first of all with Air France business class and Air France economy class. And if you're flying Air France economy class, you have to go through, especially if you're American, right? So or maybe Canada's looped into that too. You have to go through one security lane, and it's like all of the other countries. And if you're in the Eurozone, or if you're French resident, there's like 7 or 8 different security lines that you can go through. So that takes a lot more time. But if you're flying business class on Air France, you have your own special security line, sail straight through. There's so many things that are better in a European airport when you fly business class, not to mention the fact that you get so much extra room on your luggage. So you get 2 bags, then they're much heavier. So if you want to bring something home with you, like souvenirs or something, then that's a great way to make sure that happens, relatively inexpensive. Bop it, never traveled in business class, so it'll be a first time for me. Yeah. Honestly, so when my first business class was Air France in last December. And I was one of those people that I was like, you know what, I'm just going to tell them this is my first time. And I'm so glad I did that, because they were so helpful. Like the attendant that helped us with our getting checked in, like she walked us over to the security section. Everyone was so nice. The people at the lounge were so nice. So it was just like, this is my first time. They helped me kind of figure out what the best plan was. They helped me get facial scheduled. Like it was great. You're going to have a great time. MR, I'm not sure how anyone ever liked them, in my opinion. Are you talking about Southwest? Because I can get that. Boppet, is there a trick when you go to all-inclusive resorts to use points? Yeah, so I mean, pretty much the biggest trick is use a Hyatt if you have it. So if you have Chase Ultimate Reward points, a Hyatt kind of all-inclusive is going to be the best bang for your point, right? However, Hilton actually does have some really great all inclusive as well. Although I think they are losing the Hilton Rose Hall in Jamaica. I think that's going independent. So they're losing a couple. But if you can find a Hilton, it's actually not bad for those points. So you can still do it with Hilton. I haven't personally kind of looked into booking a Marriott. So someone correct me if Marriott's better, but I feel like Hyatt would be the preferred option for the best value. But then Hilton, you can still kind of make it work. Is my opinion. So Southwest was my preferred airline. Yuri says, when I lived in California, I was almost exclusively using Southwest, and it was great. Absolutely. My wife and I, we kind of, essentially came up like flying Southwest every time we flew somewhere. But, my wife, I kind of screwed up in reverse. My wife and I started flying domestic first class, and now I can't get her on the Southwest flight. So I got 50,000 Southwest points. I don't know what to do with. So if you want to fly somewhere, let me know. Yuri G, if you are based in California, therefore are always traveling east, Southwest would work for you. If you were in the Midwest and going east or west constantly, not so much. Okay, that makes sense. I'm not in California anymore, but Southwest is coming to our airport in March, but with only 4 destinations. Okay. I think that's one of the reasons why I like Southwest, because they have so many direct destinations from Orlando. For example, when my wife and we flew to Nashville, Southwest was the best, most direct way to get there. And we just happened to have Southwest points. So it cost me $11, right? For us both to go there. So that was kind of the big deal. At Yuri, that's great. Where are you based now? And then Knoxville, Tennessee. I've heard a couple credit card YouTubers up in Knoxville. Knoxville's a great little town. I went to a UT game one time. Calder, my first lie flat business class was from Toronto to Montreal, all of a 1 hour flight. Yeah. And you know what's weird though is like I remember thinking my 6.5 hour flight to or from Paris was too short. But yeah, I'd definitely be like, can you please be stranded on the tarmac? I don't want to be in here a little bit longer. MR, it's amazing how airport proximity affects your entire system. It really does. Yeah. Where are you flying out of? Where are you flying to? That can really drive where you want to go, right? And what points system you want to go for, right? So, example, if you are in a United hub, it's definitely more beneficial to you to have the Chase Sapphire Preferred than it is to have the American Express Gold card because, well, you can actually transfer those directly to United, so that can help you more. And so, yeah, that's a great point. Yuri, I've been to Hilton, all inclusive, and it was great, better than Hyatt. Okay, I haven't been to either, just because I haven't really put that kind of a vacation together. We like to kind of do avant-garde, kind of plan it yourself kind of things, but that's great to know about Hilton all inclusives. Bop it, we don't have Hilton and Hyatt cards here in Canada. Oh, okay. Well, I guess the only thing I got is move to the United States. No, I'm just kidding. Well, that's definitely good to know. I will say, having a card that has a core Live Limitless as a transfer partner can actually be pretty helpful for you because there's a lot of Accor properties throughout the United States. There's not as many as even as Hyatt, right? So Hyatt has more of a footprint than Accor does, but the Accor points are not bad, right? So each Accor point is about 2 euro cents per point. But I think Capital One is 2-to-1, so it's basically 1 euro cent per Capital One point, which is not the best redemption, but it's a solid option if you're trying to go the hotel route. So Accor might actually be a good benefit for you. I'm not too sure where they are on all inclusives though. I've been flying more economy flights recently because my family now getting bigger creates more trips a year in economy. Yeah, I agree with that, Scott. Once I have to start flying 3 people, we definitely won't be doing first class as much, right? So yeah, that I definitely get that. And honestly, if you're going to be, a family of 3 or even a family of 4, that those 3-seat rows aren't nearly as kind of hard to overcome as when you're a family of 2, right? And so, that's give and take. Yuri, actually, Southwest is going to fly to MCO, and now I'm going to visit my friend in MCO. Nice. Yeah, so Southwest is really great for Orlando. The only thing that I hate is that the Southwest terminal doesn't really have any good lounge options. You actually have to go back on the plane train. You don't have to go through security to get to the club, but you have to go on the plane train and then back to the other terminal. And so that's a little bit more complicated, but that's not that crazy. The Rewards Master, good to be here. Well, I'm so glad that you're here as well. Love your voice, actually. It's a very soothing way to learn about about points and miles. I love airline cards, so I'm excited for the topic. Yeah, airline cards are really they're intriguing, right? So I feel like I actually I definitely have more airline cards than hotel cards because you kind of need to if you're going to be flying with that airline. Having those benefits is really kind of a big deal. Agreed. Calder, Amex Marriott card in Canada isn't bad at all. Clone of the $95 US Bonvoy Amex card. Okay. And 2x Marriott points as a catch-all is pretty good for Canada. Yeah. So I actually use my Ritz-Carlton card. I'm going to pull it out of my wallet here. I use my Ritz-Carlton card, gets 2 points per dollar too, but sometimes I use it at Costco if I like buying a computer or something, just for those protections. But yeah, 2x Marriott points. It's possible to get 1 cent per point with Marriott. It's not that terribly difficult. You got to cherry pick dates, you got to cherry pick properties, but you can get some value from those points 100%. Yuri G in Canada, there are some good Accor properties like Fairmont Royal Oak, Fairmont Chateau. Yes, each of those are on my bucket list. And even like in some places, like when I was looking in Louisville, there was actually a couple of, I think 21C is the hotel chain name, but it's in kind of the Accor program. One thing to note though is I discovered when we were looking at a Fairmont property at one of these lives in, I think it was Austin, maybe it was Austin, Texas. There was a Fairmont property we were looking at, and it was substantially more expensive to book it through Accor than it was through the Fairmont website directly. So that is the only kind of thing that could be problematic, but it's definitely good to know. MR, if I wasn't chasing airline status every year, I probably wouldn't be using my airline card for about everything. Yeah, that makes sense, right? That makes sense. Yeah, and that's kind of the give and take of this. I think that my I actually might put. I was talking to someone who had an all Hilton setup. They had an Aspire card and a Surpass card, and they always put at least $15,000 to spend in the Surpass card, at least on those higher categories. And the reason they did that is because they could have two free night awards, and they didn't have to pay for the annual fee for two Aspires. And so that was pretty intriguing to me, actually, as a cool way to make that work. And so, yeah, but yeah, if you're not doing that, then um, if you're not chasing status, and hold on, sorry about that. Hopefully, I didn't blow out your guys' eardrums. But yeah, no, yeah, if getting status is pretty much the only reason to put spend on these cards. And so, those MQDs are a big deal, things like that. Calder, and it's 2x Canadian dollars, so it's more points for the same purchase. Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Canadian dollars are always a little bit, kind of. It seems like they're worth a little bit less. Not worthless, but worth less. Scott C. Marriott gave me an offer of 5x dining and gas recently on the Boundless card through September. Unsure if it's still worth using. Yeah, and honestly, like I'm actually kicking around doing a video about the reasons why there's always a Chase card in my wallet, right? And the reason why is because they always thank you. Jen is saying bless, she's in the other room. Thank you. But anyway, so anyway, the reason why I'm always using a Chase card is because my Southwest card, even my Amazon card, and my Ritz-Carlton card, they always have these higher bonus multipliers for like a month, right? So I had one in March that was up to $1,000 in spend. You can get 5 points per dollar on, I think, dining and gas and something like that. I was like, you know what? That's actually really, really solid. And so it's enough to stay in my wallet for a little bit, but it's not enough to stay in my wallet kind of long term, right? That's going to be my venture card, my gold card, things like that. That's a solid option. Keith, I transferred out all of my built points to a core for a 200,000% bonus in June for rent day, 260,000 a core points. That is how you play the game, Keith. Congratulations. Actually, let's just do a round of applause for you. That was amazing. Yeah, those transfer bonuses are amazing. So one thing that I'm kicking myself, and I gotta show you my wins and I got to show you my losses, right? So in December, my wife and I, we had 100,000 points in Amex. So we had 100,000 MR points. And that was when they had that 40% bonus through Virgin. I knew that if we were going to fly again, that we would be flying Virgin. And so I should have transferred. I was thinking, actually considering transferring the full 100,000 points, so I get 140,000 Virgin Atlantic points. And I should have, because my wife and I, we decided to fly to Europe again, in March, and that would have really meant that I would have saved a significant amount of MR points and Capital One points for that matter. And so that was kind of a big deal. But yeah, no, those bonuses are something else. Thanks again, Jen. Love you. All right, Keith. Core transfers 1-1 to Flying Blue and Qantas 1 to 1.25. Yes. Okay. So this is actually what I love about a core, and one of the reasons why I would actually look for ways to spend with a core when I did travel to Europe, because it's actually pretty easy. I think it's like you earn 5 points per dollar on the back end. So, just by spending cash with an Accor property through the Accor program, you earn those points. And so being able to transfer 1-to-1 to Flying Blue is insane. Like, it's such a huge superpower of that program. That is amazing. I love that. Thanks so much for bringing that up. When I saw that, I had to reread it, because I was like, surely this is not right? Surely there is something wrong here. And so that's that's a great part of that program. Slink 875, do you think City is worthwhile? Absolutely. First of all, full stop. Thinking of getting the Strata Premier, but I heard mixed things from City as a bank. Okay, so I'm going to address the negatives first, and I'm going to talk about the positives. So the negatives here are, first of all, the concerns are twofold. So if you bring it internationally, they can just completely shut you down, and then you'll phone a rep, and then they'll say, we're sending you a code in the mail, and we can't open your card until after you tell us what the code is. And so that means for the rest of your trip, that Citi card is worthless, right? And so that's a concern. Now, the other part of the concern is the customer service. And so, will you be able to get things done if there's a problem? And I do have a little bit of experience with that. So, on my Citi Custom Cash, I put a TikTok shop order for some shoes, and obviously not a great idea. Did not work out well. They sent me the shoes; they were pretty much falling apart. I actually couldn't even get them on my feet without actually there was a tear in the material. It was really terrible. So I reached out to the company directly. I'm not going to name them because they're kind of big, but they basically they never responded for 3 whole months. They never responded. So I submitted a chargeback, and it took an additional 3 months. So 6 months after I actually made the purchase, they they gave me the provisional credit, they took it away, they gave it to me again, and then eventually they found in my favor after I kind of showed screenshots of emails and things like that. So that was kind of, it was a very long process. That said, eventually they found in my favor, gave me the money back, everything was hunky dory. So, I think the ways around that is if you bring a Capital One card with you, or even at your Fidelity Rewards Visa, if you have it and you tell them beforehand that you're traveling, that can be really solid. And so, having a backup travel card other than outside of the Citi ecosystem can help with the first problem. And, yeah, like Citi, they don't have the best customer service, but I feel like nobody really does anymore, right? I mean, everybody loves to talk about how great American Express service agents are. But here's the thing, half the time, you know more than they do about their job. And you have to be able to weed out when they're straight out lying to you. I haven't heard of a complaint of Citi agents just lying to people. They just don't know the answer, right? I don't know which is worse, right? And so, that's kind of an interesting point. So anyway, those two big negatives put aside, the Citi card system is stupid powerful because the Citi Strata Premier gets you 3x on gas, dining, groceries, right? It's huge. It is incredible. And then you get the 2 points per dollar with the Citi Double Cash, 1 point when you spend it, 1 point when you pay it back. Just pay your statement balance in full by the due date, right? And then you get the Citi Custom Cashes, as many as you can get, right? 5 cents or 5% back on your top category spend. And so yeah, that's amazing. And even more if you're someone who's going to use the Citi travel portal, the elite card, that could make sense for you. But I love Citi. I agree wholeheartedly with Yuri. It's great, and as long as you understand the limitations and the possible problems with using Citi, you can actually kind of mitigate that but still benefit the most. So I'm definitely on board with Citi. Kirby, I have the opportunity to do a 60% transfer bonus from Built to Virgin tomorrow. Great opportunity, but no plans to fly on Virgin, and recently spent most of my Built points. Yeah. The only thing I would say to that, Kirby, is my wife and I are interested in, we're monitoring opportunities to use for the Virgin voyages, because those because when you book those voyages with points, you actually get like a room that has a balcony on it, so it's a pretty decent sized room. But also, they have really good programs, it seems like. So it seems like it's a good option. But then they also have those Virgin hotels, which it seems like they're definitely not high end, right? You're not going to get Waldorf or Ritz style service out of it. But it definitely seems like it's, nicer compared to, a Hampton Inn, or maybe even, your run of the day corporate Marriotts. And so, there are other uses for Virgin points. I definitely wouldn't use them for AMC tickets, because then in the Virgin Red app, they want you to use it for that. I don't get the impression that's a good way to use Virgin points. But yeah, no, if you don't have a way to book it, I would say Virgin does have some good availability with Delta, so that might be an option. But just take with it what you will. All right, Scott C. Even though annual fees, Citi Strata ain't bad. Yeah, absolutely. That select your own category is powerful. Strata is good, but Strata Premier is must have. I agree, Yuri. And that's why I have it. Right, the Citi Strata Premier is in my wallet, right? I didn't get rid of it. I hope I have it. I don't have it in this wallet, but actually, no, I do. Citi Strata Premier. I actually got this card because of Joe Barretto. There's so many uncles in the credit card space. But yeah, so I got the Citi Strata Premier. I actually product changed one of my custom cashes. I tried to get the sign up bonus. They wouldn't give it to me, and I was like, I still want this card. So it's a good card. I wouldn't expect too much out of the hotel bonus thing. You had to spend $500 in the city travel portal in order to get $100 back, and so I wouldn't expect too much value out of that. Appreciate all the answers. Philip, you're great. Glad you started this YouTube channel. Thanks so much for being here, Link 875. I appreciate all of your questions that you bring. You've just been such a great, such a great system, or such a great help to these lives. Sorry, I was reading something. Scott C just booked a Delta flight through Virgin to Portugal. Well, that's amazing. Yeah. One thing I did actually find out is that you can book. So I know. So I've been looking for ways to book and save on taxes to Heathrow. Because my wife and I, we love London, and we also want to go to a couple other places in the United Kingdom. So like we're planning on going to Scotland soon, things like that. I did find that there is some award availability where you can actually book Virgin Upper Class through Air France and actually save a somewhat substantial amount on those taxes and fees. So that's also an option. But yeah, booking Delta through Virgin is also a solid option too. Yeah, that's definitely a great point. Background Balloon says good customer service is one of my favorite myths right now after the Odyssey. Yeah, absolutely, and nobody has it anymore, right? And I think nobody has proved that more than Anthony Venture, right? So I love Anthony. I personally don't understand his obsession with using concierge services, just because I like to actually just plan everything out. But he has proven, right, that fewer people are actually putting any money into this sort of thing. All right. Well, I think we've gotten to a point where we finally caught up with the conversation. So thanks so much, guys, for being here. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up a little bit early. I know sometimes we go for 2 hours, but I am hearing from my wife that my dog needs to go out, and so I'm going to go take care of her. Anyway, thanks so much again for joining me. I guess we'll keep it at this. I was kind of concerned that maybe the football situation would kind of keep people away, but it seems like we've had a pretty good conversation. So thanks so much again for being here and staying for this wonderful conversation. And once again, thank you so much for Yuri and Kirby for being here and answering so many questions. Love some Mike Newland was here, Philmo was here as well, and of course, I also want to say thank you again to Flying Turtles for becoming a YouTube member. We love every single one of you guys. You are all the best. Philmo, thanks, brother Phil. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys. And I can't wait to see, hopefully I get to see all of you in Puerto Rico. My wife Jen's going to be there too. She's less than enthusiastic, specifically about the trip to the rainforest that we're going to be doing. But, I think it's going to be fun. But anyway, thanks so much for coming out, guys. I really appreciate you. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. Ooh.